Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Swans Bigfooty Podcast. My name is Bonds. Joining me today we have Swans Rule 100
Hello.
and Soph.
Hey guys!
We're coming off a rather disappointing 3-point loss to Richmond, but put in hindsight, the loss is probably due to the fact that we rested several players from the side. And having the likes of Pike, Lance Franklin, Josh Kennedy and Ben McGlynn might turn a 3-point loss into a 50-point win. What are your thoughts on the weekend, Swans Rule?
Look, I won't go into depth on that game because overall I don't think we learned a lot from it. There's 6 players I'll highlight. Lloyd, I think, showed a great composure in the wet, and I was really impressed with him as a full game, and I think he's really got a bright future. Parker was epic, I thought, and has really taken over Josh Kennedy's role. Rampy moving to Rewalt pretty much curtailed him, and that was an exceptional effort given the size difference there or strength differential. Gary Rowan continues to evolve in confidence, and he's cemented his spot in the team. And I thought he was the one really having a dip when the chips were down. And Tom Mitchell, that was an exceptional effort. There's no way he's going out of the team. Naismith on debut, he was. I probably could have done a little bit better in the ruck and run around a bit better, but. Fair, he was thrown to the wolves a bit, so I think he deserves a bit of a break. He shouldn't have really played. Overall, I felt like we could have won the game at times. It was frustrating in the wet, and it's like we didn't really want it. You can't give away a 5-goal start. I wouldn't expect it to be the norm going forward. A shout-out to their best players, Rosebery, Stevic and Pennell. They were pretty good for them, I thought, and got them over the line. That's about all I have to say about it.
Okay, Soph, what are your thoughts on the game?
Well, I find it very interesting there that Swans Rule named those 5 players, and those 5 players are young players. There's Parker. Parker's been there for a couple of years now. Mitchell, Rowan. They're our young players. They're the players that are going to be leading this club in the next 5, 6, 8 years or so to come. So to see them, be the ones that are leading that game yesterday, even though it was a loss, I guess you have to take that as a positive. But again, it was a really disappointing game for me to sit there and watch live, and just sloppy turnovers. And I just thought there was no real gutsy effort, whether that was because we were resting players or we didn't really care because we were already minor premiers. But the way I saw it is that you just don't drop a home game, the last game of the season before finals. But apart from that, Richmond came out, firing. They had, 30 points up in the first 5 minutes of the game. You can't write them off. They had the guts to go out there and, push us, and, they wanted to win it. They wanted to play finals. So it's a credit to Richmond. But I thought our younger players, were exceptional yesterday despite the loss.
The main thing I actually took out of the match, Gary Rowan obviously I think had his best performance he's had for the Swans yet. He's had a couple of really good performances recently, but he just seems to get better and better, and on the weekend he kicked it up another notch again. That being said, you could really tell that there was no real frantic effort from us. Yes, we laid a fair few tackles, and a few of our younger players seem to be trying their guts out to make sure they really played finals, but it almost seemed as if at the end of the game we were kind of almost giving it back to Richmond. That final period of the game where Richmond would kick it out in the full, we kick it back into forward 50, Alex ran to a mark, they kick it back out in the full. It just, I don't know, it didn't really feel as if we really cared about the match. Like, even our players' reactions after the game, it wasn't really as if they were devastated. And in regards to dropping your last home game before finals, so do you remember what happened in 2012?
Yes, I've repeatedly been reminded of what happened, but still, considering we are the top team this year and have been the best all year, I just didn't think, regardless of, again, who we were resting or if it was a nothing game, I just didn't believe that we should have lost that game, regardless.
Well, to put things in perspective for our listeners who... They may know our last game in 2012, we got battered by Geelong. Everyone's aware of that. But we also lost the week before to Collingwood, and the week before to Hawthorn, and 2 weeks before that to Collingwood. We had actually lost our last 2 games at home going into the finals.
Mm.
Yeah, but we also finished 3rd on the ladder. So, are you saying Geelong will win the premiership this year? Or?
Oh God, please no.
Geelong
history
won their
doesn't
first
mean
round. Geelong won their first round. We're fine.
Look, what this week means, I think we'll be told in next week's performance, and I expect that this team will come out and play a completely different brand of football because I have faith from the 23 rounds that we've seen. But if we come out flat again, then I guess you can read more into this game. But given the outs that we've identified and what was on the line for each team, whether we like it or not, I think it's hard to get up and about. That 5-goal start really sealed the game, and it's just my only concern is another poor wet weather performance. And I think the young guys we highlighted are the ones who have wet weather smarts, and some of the senior players don't seem to know how to adjust to wet weather football. As good as in seasons as they are, our game plan seems to take a half to adjust to the wet, which is a concern, but you get that. But Gary Rowan, we've highlighted him, he's one of the best wet weather players in that team, and probably Lloyd as well, in my opinion.
One thing I actually did want to raise, Gary Rowan, when he played at under-18s level, wasn't well known for elite disposal. He's known for rushing it on a few occasions. Then, when he came to the draft camp, he hit all 20 out of 20 targets and broke the new kicking record, which everyone was a bit surprised about at the time. When he first came into our team, his disposal was okay, but not brilliant. But recently, it's really gone up another level, especially his kicking. He may occasionally float one a little bit long, but he's always looking to try and find someone in space. That goal assist he had on the weekend was brilliant, and some of his disposal off the half-back flank, it's really impressed me. Like, he's really stepped it up another notch, and when he gets that rod out of his leg, God knows how good he's going to be.
It's not just the disposal, though. In the wet, it's just the tap-ons and the little pressure acts he does and puts his bloody body on the line and uses his brain, just gets the ball forward. You don't have to be disposing it effectively in the wet. You just got to move the thing forward. And like people like Malcheski and they're great players, McVeigh and co, they try to still hit up targets and be so precise, and you can't do it on that rubbish surface in the wet. You just got to play wet weather football, use your brain a bit, and that's why I think what impresses me more than 17 possessions from Rowan is just the little extra things he does that he wouldn't get a stat for. I can't think of any from the top of my head because I've erased that game from my memory, but yeah, I don't know.
I think all things aside as well with Gary is like he's so desperate to play finals, and every game that he goes into now he's just trying to again prove to himself and I guess to the coaches that he is that player and that he can just keep performing and keep going. So he's done extremely well the last few weeks, so he definitely deserves to play finals all the way through.
He's got to be locked in that side.
Yeah, has to be.
The other one I'd give a quick shout to, and he shouldn't play finals, but Dean Towers, been a bit of a whipping boy, but I think he's progressively got a little bit better each week that he's played. He's not probably ready for seniors yet, but I'd just give him a little bit of credit because I've been whipping him a bit. So
I do want to give Dean Towers a little bit of credit. It takes a fair bit of courage to line up against Ivan Maric in the ruck, especially when you're giving up 24 kilos odd and 15 centimeters. That was brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I sat there yesterday and, watched Naismith ruck, and I actually turned to Grimlock and said, just put Towers in the ruck, please. Just, I actually thought Towers did a pretty good job, so credit to him there as well.
Yeah, I was not too actually disappointed with Towers on the weekend. I think he will go out of the team, but the player who I'm very interested in has had a couple of really good weeks, and it'll be interesting to see what the Swans do with him. Tommy Mitchell, 82% time on ground yesterday, 13 contested disposals, 29 altogether, 62% disposal efficiency for an inside midfielder. That's actually pretty good. The average inside midfielder has 55 to 60% disposal efficiency, so it is just above the average. He had a few clangers with his kicks as per usual, but 13 tackles, I can't see him getting dropped this week, and I think he's going to keep Bird out of the team.
I don't think it matters because I don't know how you can play on an injured PCL anyway, so I think Mitchell's got the spot. Birds just won't be a factor, is my opinion, but you're right. The only knock on Mitchell is his kicking is a little bit suspect and his pace, but his elite hands at the clearance work, 8 marks, 13 tackles, you don't get dropped after that, surely. Unless he genuinely played to get his trade value up and the rumours are true. Otherwise, keep him in the side, definitely.
I mean, exactly. While Bird's out, he's got to, he's just got to play that role and, prove that he deserves to play. So, that's what you've got to do in those situations. Exactly like you said, if he's playing to play for trade value, then I guess that's what you have to do in that situation. But, Craig Bird's not at the moment. You can't play exactly with a bad PCL. So if Mitchell's standing up that way, then I'm happy for him to continue doing that.
I will say this: if Tom Mitchell gets traded, I will resign as moderator.
No,
you
won't.
want to resign anyway.
I will actually resign as moderator if Tom Mitchell gets traded this weekend. Easy.
If he gets traded this weekend, I'll be bloody surprised.
Oh, not this week. This year, I mean. Sorry, I can't see him getting traded. He's still contracted. From all reports, he's happy in Sydney. Anyone that has a half decent idea of football, which is unfortunately only about a quarter of the big footy community, yes, that has come from a moderator, will know that the reason he hasn't been getting games this year has been due to the fact he has been injured and not trading. These Carlton rumours are false, as Robbie Ando, who has multiple sources inside Carlton, has informed us.
Look, there's more chance of Buddy signing a 3-year contract extension next week than Mitchell being traded end of the year, I would have thought.
Definitely. Now, the next topic I did want to bring up was Adam Goods is copping a little bit of flack at the moment for a few dives, which is...
Adam Goods is copying flack for winning Australian of the Year, let's face it. That's why people are pissed off and anti-Goods and all this bullshit goes on. Sorry to talk over the host there.
No, that's all right. He also had a very interesting Twitter conversation the other day with a rather controversial Australian sporting legend. Swans Rule, do you want to take us away and fill us in on the details?
Yeah, so during the game, it looked like old Warney had a tweet about, he wanted Richmond to win, and then I can't remember what he said, something about, is anyone else sick of Goods taking a dive? And then Michael Clark responded and said, Swans will win, Goods is a legend. And then Warren said something about who picked Goods for Australia of the Year? I didn't know he won that. And then Goods replied later after the game, clearly, you better check Adam Gilchrist is on the voting committee. He voted me in, but thanks for your support, which I thought was quite a classy response given all the stuff he could have said. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. The drug cheating, wife cheating, peroxide plastic surgery, butchered face, fat Aussie leg spinner tweets a Swans legend.
But I think that's the thing with social media is things can get taken out of context completely. And I think things like Twitter, you have 140 characters to get your point or, what you want to say across. And I think the way people see things on Twitter, again, it just gets blown out of context. I mean, I just can't take anything seriously when I read those things that, sports stars tweet to one another. Like, it's forgotten about. Like, you're mentioning it now, but nobody's going to mention it again. I mean, it might get brought up on an AFL television show, but apart from that, just, like, forget about it. Like, Warney's done. Goods will be done in the next couple of years. Like, simple as that. Like, you just forget about it. It's done.
I agree. It's a minor issue. It's just part of a bigger issue where Goods has become arguably the most hated player in the AFL.
But everybody's got to hate. Yeah, sorry to talk over you, but everybody's got to pick somebody to hate in the AFL. It just happens to be Goods. It's a shame because, I mean, as Swans fans, we all love him. We all love him for reasons on field and off field. But he's the person at the moment that everybody seems to hate. Everybody hates Boomer Harvey one week, everybody hates Travis Cloak the next. You know what I mean? So it's just Goods seems to be the one that is taking all the flack at the moment. So. He's just got
that being said, and I might get roared down as a bit of a bad guy here, Goods has developed a little bit of a habit to throw his head back in the tackle.
It's not a little habit.
Okay, rather large. It's very interesting. It's copped a few players a fair bit of criticism. Usually the players are copped it from Geelong, but it is something I would rather him take out of his game.
I felt that he would have got a free kick yesterday and a shot at goal to win us the game if he didn't play for that free kick at the end. I think he cost himself a shot at goal being an idiot. And I think he did it at least 3 times yesterday, and I think he's better than that. And I thought Bartel was a disgrace when he threw himself. I thought Lindsay Thomas was. And to be consistent, as much as I love him, Adam Goods was a disgrace yesterday with that behaviour. And that shit cost us a free kick in the grand final when we need it, then I'll be pissed off.
There's a couple of moments yesterday right in front of me, especially in that last 5 minutes of that last quarter. And I mean, again, whether it was a game that we wanted to win or lose, I actually just watched Good spectate, and I was like, "What are you doing? Like, have it. You can't just expect somebody else to go up against the ball. Like, have a crack yourself." But that was just me getting really stressed and worried in the last 2 minutes of the game, hoping that we're going to win. But yeah, I mean, you can't do that on a grand final day. You just have to keep going. You can't dive for a free kick because it's pathetic, and your teammates will think it, and everybody else will think it. So,
I do honestly think that the diving for free kicks will get brought up after the match this week. Like during the match review, it'll have to get brought up. There is no doubt about it. Longmire will bring it up and have a talk with Goods. That being said, if he is spectating, I don't think we will see Goods do that on grand final day. Like, he has been caught doing it a little bit at times, but when the game has been on the line and it's been a match that's actually worth something, like, I'm sorry to a lot of Richmond fans, that if any are actually listening to this podcast, but the game really wasn't worth anything on the weekend. I think he will put his head over the ball a little bit more.
We don't know the instructions that they're given. Like, he might have been told, stay in the goal square, don't move. Because yesterday, I think Tippett crashed into a pack and dived in really hard. And I thought, oh, geez, what are you doing? The next thing, he's on the bench with the coach in his ear. He's probably told, like, hey, mate, you got to play next week. I mean, maybe he wasn't, but we don't know the role that these guys are asked to play. Because sometimes this year, people have run off Goods and he's looked a bit poor in defence. But then other times, he looks like the old Goods. So I'm not sure if he's lazy at times or can't go, or he's instructed not to go. But I think it's all part of the management on the weekend in particular. But it's a bit harder to tell on the TV as well.
Now, that being said, we'll move on to the next topic, and it's a fairly important one, an actual qualifying final against the Fremantle Dockers on Saturday. It's going to be a really interesting match. I don't think we can take a lot from the game that we played against them earlier in the year. Fremantle were pretty out of form. We were just coming into form. Both lineups were pretty vastly different to what we're going to see this weekend. And we can't really take much from the Port Adelaide game last year as well. The preliminary final game last weekend as well. I mean, we'd have nearly 10, 11 players different this weekend and with a rather different fitness base. So I think it's a bit of an unknown, but watching Fremantle play Port Adelaide on the weekend, I think they're a matchup that would actually be pretty ideally suited towards us. We're not too bad with small forwards, and I think Ballantyne has got a pretty ideal matchup in Nick Smith, and I wouldn't mind Rampy going to Walters. What are your thoughts on the game coming up this weekend, Soph?
I mean, a final is it's a qualifying final, so we win it, we go into a prelim. But again, you just can't go. It's a final. You can't go into a final expecting you can win. If you turn up on the day, and having a look at the bomb this week, it is going to rain on Saturday, unfortunately, again in Sydney. So a wet ANZ stadium. I mean, you just have to go in. And we have to try better than our best. I mean, hopefully we'll have Buddy back, we'll have, McGlynn back, Kennedy back, which gives us, great options. I mean, it's a final. I'm nervous. I want us to win. I hope we don't play like we did for the first 5 minutes of that opening game against Richmond, because there's a lot that needs to be improved. But, I mean, I worry, but at the same time, I feel confident against Fremantle, but again, they have some great quality players, and, you can't let Ballantyne get the ball because he'll just kick goals on us, and nobody wants to see him smiling. But yeah, I feel confident, but I'm hoping, we can go out and have a really strong game.
Okay, Swans Rule, what are your thoughts on the game this weekend?
Look, if you're a Swans fan and you're thinking of going to another final, book your tickets for the home prelim, because we're going to romp this in.
Confident.
Confident.
I said last year, and I'll say it all year, Freo are the biggest pretenders in the comp. They've got good small forwards, but small forwards don't win your finals, which they showed last year in the prelim when they went the grand final. When they went to water, I mean, they live on this defensive pressure, and okay, there's a bit of a defensive team they're coming up against this week. They've got some good players, don't get me wrong. Fife comes back in, that's a massive inclusion, and they've got a really big midfield. But if we can get on top there, I don't see who stops Buddy. I don't see who stops Tippett. I don't even really see who stops Goods if he get into form. And I think we'll have too much firepower and win the game quite comfortably. I think they've got on a nice roll with a pretty cushy draw, if I'm not mistaken, really. I mean, I know they've played Hawthorn and Port in the last few weeks and Geelong, but they won like 8 in a row playing some pretty dud sides, and they haven't done much away from Patterson Stadium either. So I'm pretty confident that we'll win this week. 10-goal win, I think. We'll probably
10 goals?
Yep. We'll sub a few out in the last quarter, sub Buddy out maybe, or something like that. It'll be that good.
Okay.
I think I'm confident.
Swans rule, if we win by more than 6 goals, I'll give you access to my avatar and my signature for the rest of the finals campaign. You can have it if we win by more than 6. I think it's going to be a close game. It's interesting.
Look at the age of their key players, though. Like Pav's 33, is he? McFarlane, is he even alive anymore? I mean,
McFarlane's injured. He's expected to possibly come back this weekend, but is not rated more than a 50-50 chance. That being said, McFarlane would be playing on Tippett if he does come back. The person that they'll put on Buddy would be Michael Johnson, who...
I reckon he'll play spare and try to get all those intercept marks he gets, because he's actually the one I'm worried about, is kicking it down his bloody throat with those high bombs we like to go with. So that's...
I can't see anyone else playing on Franklin, though, on their lineup. He's possibly one of the very few defenders in the competition that may actually be athletically gifted enough to possibly go with Buddy as well.
Fair point. In that case, then, if he stays in the side, then it's Sam Reid has an important role to play if Buddy's occupied, because he doesn't have a great record against Freo as well, so that's something to bear in mind. And it could be a chance for the decoy forward to step up and show us why he's been in the side all year. Eventually, he's bound to do it one day, so time will tell. But yeah, I'm very confident.
It'll be interesting. The Pike is a massive inclusion coming into this weekend as well. Josh, if you look at the inclusions we need to get, Josh Kennedy will really reinforce our contested ball use, which hurt on the weekend against Richmond. We actually got beat for the contested ball, especially in the first 5 minutes. That really hurt us. Sandilands is going to crush whoever he plays against, but at least Pike might neglect some of the damage you do around the ground and the stoppages. After that, McGlynn's obviously, I think, until his injury, he may even be leading our best and fairest ahead of Franklin and Kennedy. I've really rated his season, and bringing him back into the midfield with his pace and inside ability is a massive in. Look, we match up well against Fremantle. That's something that I don't think any of us are really disputing. Our defence matches up well. I think Grundy is going to be the perfect matchup for Pavlich on the weekend. We won't pull Richards to him. I have a feeling Richards will take the second ruckman, or may even be spare if they're not using Clark up forward. We've got, in regards to their small forwards, as I commented on before, Smith is a perfect matchup for Ballantyne. I can't see anyone else going to him. And whilst Walters does worry me, and he's been in pretty good form since he's come back from that injury, Rampy should be athletic enough to go with him. Like, Rampy's in really good form at the moment, and I can't remember many people kicking a bag on him. Hell, he held Rewalt on the weekend to only 1 goal as soon as he got switched on, so...
The other option might be, if he stays in the team, to have Biggs tag one of those little blokes, but I can't see Biggs staying in the team, unfortunately, but it's just an option.
No, I think if they're going to... Yeah, I think they will play Shaw on the weekend. Shaw was pretty poor 2 weeks ago, but... He had a pretty good game on the weekend.
He's in Longmire's best 22.
What was our result last time we played Fremantle?
We beat them in round
17,
5.
Wasn't it? We were pretty poor for 3 quarters, I think, but it's the one where we got ourselves back in form a little bit.
Yeah, Buddy just kind of exploded in the last quarter.
92-75 we won. Kennedy got 38 possessions.
Was that at home or at Perth?
It was at home, SCG.
We haven't played them at Perth, home and away for years.
I can't remember the game.
We played them at the SCG. We won, and Franklin kicked 4 goals, 3 of them in the last quarter.
That's right.
Yeah, he'd been quiet all day, hadn't he?
Yeah, and then he just kind of kicked up in the last quarter. He was getting really well held by Johnson all game.
The player I'm actually a little bit concerned about in our team at the moment is Ted Richards down back a little bit. I'm just wondering if he's on the start of a decline that might become more of a concern next season. But the fact that Rampy had to go to Rewalt and he did a great job, was a little bit of a worry. But maybe it's a one-off, I guess. But I think he's just been a little down this year. I think
Richards has struggled with players who are really good at leading back into space. Where Richards can get really caught out is if a player's athletic enough to lead up the ground and then lead back.
Yep.
He got caught out with that with Ryder a few weeks ago against Essendon a little bit, and he got caught out again on the weekend against Rewalt. The commentators even noticed it, which is surprising.
He's always batted above his weight, though, because he's tiny compared to these guys he plays on.
He's got a massive core strength, though. Like, I remember reading a few years ago, like, in terms of, like, strength to weight ratio in our club, this was 4 years ago. Richards was technically stronger than Barry Hall, which is crazy. But the strongest at the club was actually Craig Bolton back then, surprisingly. But look, I'm not too concerned about this weekend. I am a bit worried about some of the matchups on the midfield. Mundy and Fife both have a fabulous record against us. So, look, I'm expecting someone to tag Fife, and I think for that reason we might look at even possibly keeping in Shane Biggs. He's been really good in an attacking role in recent times. He didn't tag on the weekend, surprisingly, but I think he wouldn't be the worst matchup for Fife.
He's done it once. I wouldn't get too excited.
He's done it twice, hasn't he?
Hasn't he done it against Griffin?
He did it against Griffin, and he played on... What's his face? The week before, his first game, he was on Lenny Hayes.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I don't know. It just seems a lot of halfback flankers. Are you and Robbie been talking or something?
No, that's just my kind of ideal world that we don't play Shaw or we play Biggs as a tagger instead of a halfback flanker. No, Robbie Ando wanted to play Laidler as well, and Sam Reid in defence.
No, look, I think the game will be won in the midfield. So it'll be about the clearance numbers and probably have to rove off Sandilands taps, I guess. But that's what we did last time, I think, from memory.
Yeah, we did. Last time Sandilands had 48 hitouts, Clark had 13, and Crowley somehow had 1, whilst we only had a combined 19 in our team, 12 to Pike and 7 to Derricks.
And people going about the ground and wanting to play at the SCG, I think the SCG maybe suits Freo on the one side. I'd probably rather play at ANZ because of their work. Mundy and Barlow and Fife feel like they get it out of the centre so quickly and can turn that into a score at the SCG a little quicker than maybe ANZ. And maybe the boggy track will help us a bit. But
it's gonna be wet again. So like that makes me, do we have a late change again this week, or do we keep Tippett and Buddy in? Do we play the tools in the wet?
I think we will. We've kept at it most of this year. That being said, I'm having a look here. It looks like Saturday is going to be partly cloudy and Friday and Sunday raining. It's possible showers. Oh yeah,
it's
geez.
Raining end of the week. It's going to rain again the end of the week, and it's just everything's. It's just wet. It's just wet and miserable up here at the moment.
Yeah, jeez, just having a look at that. It looks like next Sunday will be dry for you guys. Let's just hope the rains a bit earlier, but it is only a 1 to 5 millimetres of rain, so that isn't much.
Look, Kennedy and McGlynn, especially Kennedy, are crucial ins for this game. Kennedy because of his clearance work and McGlynn for the energy he brings to the team. I think McGlynn alone would have won us that, been the difference against Richmond, because he wouldn't have allowed that shitty quarter to happen the way it did in the first. I think he's the one player who'll say, no, this isn't happening, and digs in when things are down this year. So I'd love those two to be in this week.
Can you guys see McGlynn possibly going to Fife this weekend?
First game back.
No.
I'm a bit worried he won't play.
What's he done? His knee or his hammy?
It was a tight hamstring strain, I think. 1 second. I'll check this out. But
no, if McGlynn plays, he'll play centre half forward. Like he'll be small forward. I don't think they're going to push him too hard. Especially, I don't think this, I'm not going to even say it. He got injured this game a couple of years ago,
I think Horse likes to wait till the player gets about 29 disposals before he puts a tag on anyway, so you probably won't see any super-duper tight run with rolls, but...
We had a few in the last... we didn't use any against Richmond, but we had a few in the 2 weeks beforehand with Bigsy. I'm kind of hoping he stays in the side just so we can use him in the tagging role. I'm not sure who really goes out of the way. Maybe if one of McGlynn... Jeez. I think that's what half the board wants at the moment, but I can't see Longmire dropping him. Especially because Reed gives us that versatility to play forward or back. I just can't see it happening.
No, they won't. I wouldn't want Reed dropped.
It won't happen, but I would drop him. I think about dropping him because I'm not sure why he's in there as a decoy forward when he gets in the way. We don't need him in the ruck, and he never goes back. He seems to be picked on reputation or what he might do and not what he does.
True.
That's might be harsh, but
he can
two good goals, but
is final time besides bringing in, obviously we want Kennedy and we want Franklin in, but is now a time to be messing with selections and dropping? Do you just keep in, take out who's necessarily not important, Naismith, and I'm not sure, Mitchell might make way for Kennedy, but do you really mess with Sam Reid and taking him out to, really off balance the team, even though he's not really doing anything?
I don't think he'll go anyway. Like you said, he'll stay. So I think the only changes I can see would be Franklin, Pike, McGlynn, Kennedy in, and probably Jones, Naismith, Towers, and...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Jones.
Biggs will go out, I'm guessing. And to be consistent, I would still keep Biggs ahead of Shaw, even though I know Shaw came back into form, but that's how I reckon it'll go. And you're right, he won't make 5 changes. The only other one we probably need to worry about a little bit is McVeigh looked a bit sore. I know he came back on, but Hanbury came back on as well and then disappeared for, 6 weeks. So that worried me a little bit, but hopefully that's nothing.
It looked like McVeigh was just a corky. He seemed to be running okay after he came on, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Yep. But I can't see Bird coming in, and I don't think Mitchell deserves to be dropped enough to risk a half-fit Bird either. So, yeah, give Bird another week.
Yeah, I can't see Bird missing personally. I think he'll be fine. Oh, no, sorry, not Bird. Mitchell. Bird won't play.
If they were fully fit, who would you pick? If Bird was knocking on the door 100%.
Biggs.
Out of Bird and Mitchell.
Oh, sorry. Oh, gosh, sorry. I thought he'd make way. Bird. I just think he's classy.
Yeah, see, I think Mitchell's a better player overall. I know what Bird's done, but...
Yeah, look, I can see... It depends on really who we're playing against.
That's true.
It really depends on who we're playing against. See, personally, for Fremantle, I'd rather play Mitchell simply because he's a better inside midfielder than Bird. But if we're playing a team where we're really going to need to set up a few defensive tags, and you'd go Bird, especially if it's a defensive. We got to set up a defensive forward tag. Bird's got more versatility. He's a bit of a jack of all trades compared to Mitchell, but Mitchell's better in his role as an inside midfielder.
Pound for pound, Mitchell's way more talented. I think Bird's disposal at times and his ability to get himself into trouble is just baffling. He's got a slow turning circle as well. And he's one of my favourites. I don't know if it's just because he wears 14 and all that, but I love Birdie, but I can't see how you fit both in the current structure because I can't see someone like Lloyd coming out who's speedier and classy, and you can't drop like a Cunningham or anyone like that for a Mitchell or Bird. So I think there's only a spot for one of them, unless Kennedy, God forbid, is out.
Who do you guys send Cunningham to this weekend?
I like Cunningham forward.
Yeah, me too. He's so quick. You put that ball into space and Cunningham runs onto it. Oh, it is a dream to watch live, watching him run with the ball and just, Cunningham deserves to keep going all the way. He is so good. I'm very proud of him.
That being said,
do it than Jeddah. Jeddah sometimes pulls up, but Cunningham just keeps going. I love that when he does that. And it feels like they've set up the game a little bit more trying to get the slingshot for Jetta, Cunningham, and even Rowan at times going forward, clear some space. So that might be a weapon against the Dockers this weekend. So I'd push him forward.
Yeah.
Would you use him in a defensive forward role? Because that is a role that Cunningham has been a very good defensive midfielder at times this year. He hasn't had too many players that have really gotten off the leash against him. Like, would you use him
possibly? About it. But you've got Malcheski, Richards, Grundy, Rampy.
Not as a defensive, I'm talking a defensive forward. So him stopping some of Fremantle's run from defence.
He'll do that anyway because I want him forward because of the pressure he puts on defensively and his tackling. And it shits me when we get the ball forward 50 and it comes out and it's always in our back line. Like, he's one of those players who'll keep it in there with his repeat entry pressure. So he naturally sort of plays a defensive role. I don't think there's anyone he needs to actually tag or anything in their forward line comes to mind. You've probably got a better idea than me, but I think we've got to focus more on what we do and less on what they do this week anyway.
Fair enough. I'm just worried about some of the players from Fremantle's team. I do think that, and I'm not sure, for my sure thing this weekend, I'm actually going to go with Cunningham to do a defensive role on Stephen Hill. Hill's is a real barometer for Fremantle. When he's up and going, they're up and going. If we can keep him down to 10 odd disposals, that's going to be a massive win for us. Even if it risks a little bit of Cunningham's run at times, I think we can cover that with Jetta and Rowan and even Lloyd to some extent. For my worst nightmare for the weekend, starting off the game like how we started off against Richmond or flirting with form to closer finals. My final tip, I'm predicting us to win by 14 points in a tight match where we'll kick clear in the last quarter. Swans Rule, your sure thing, worst nightmare and tip?
I always forget to pick one. Look, my sure thing will be that the ANZ surface will resemble a bloody horse's cow paddock. He shocked up to buggery and covered in manure and looked like Moorabbin in 1981. My worst nightmare, I can't say injury. My worst nightmare is probably that some Freo fan listens to this and sees that I tipped us by more than 10 goals and we lose, and I have to hear about it for the next, X amount of weeks. But I'm tipping us by 66 points in a Roops 90 final where we take the foot off the brake in the last quarter and we could have probably won by 90, but we'll just ease through and play Hawthorn or Geelong in the prelim.
Okay, and Soph?
My sure thing is that Ballantyne is going to annoy every single one of us for the entire game, because that's just what he does. My worst nightmare would be for us to kick poorly. Kicking those behinds in that last quarter was not good at all. I'm going to tip us to win, but I'm not going to tip us to win by a lot. I'm going to tip us to win by 20 points.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Swans Bigfooty Podcast. You've been joined tonight by Soph, Swans Rule 100.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
And myself. Anyways, have a great night.